everybody, and thank you so much for being here today. Deborah Kobylt live. I've got a special guest in studio with me today, Mr. John Kobylt. John,
I am special.
you are special.
Thank you.
You're about to go across the street to do your own show, so thank you very much to come in to do mine.
Right.
But over at home, John and I love to talk about politics, and you haven't been on in a while, so I thought, let's have you on to talk about the state of politics at the federal level, the state, and even the local level. What do you think?
Whatever you want. It's your
Okay.
show, so.
It is. I just needed to fill the time, so I decided
I'm
to
stuck
ask you.
here. It's not like I
decided
can
to-
storm out if I don't like the question.
Well, you
so.
could, but that won't go over very well.
Yeah,
but
then
anyway,
I can't go home.
For
so.
those people who don't know, John Kobylt is the host of the very, very popular John and Ken Show.
Very, very popular.
Very, very popular. Pays the bills. John and Ken Show over at KFI Radio and iHeartRadio. Again, thanks so much for being here on your way to lunch before you go to iHeart. Okay, so let's talk first about Donald Trump. A lot of my friends, when we get together, we're talking about the election. You know, many of my friends skew left, and I always like to know what people are thinking about. Who can beat Donald Trump in the upcoming election?
Well, your friends ought to be terrified because this is the sorriest collection of candidates that I could imagine. I really thought there'd be a better crowd than this.
You're not fond of
No,
Biden?
and it's not that I disagree with them. It's most of them don't have the it factor, the star quality, the personality that jumps out. You're competing against the biggest superstar in the world.
When you say most of them, who?
Who doesn't have a great personality? Well, let's look at all those. You have Kamala Harris, Kirsten Gillibrand, Elizabeth Warren, Beto O'Rourke, Cory Booker.
Okay, but hang on a minute. A lot of people like Warren. A lot of people like Kamala Harris.
5-6%.
And then you've got Bernie Sanders. He's putting his hat in.
Bernie has
A lot of the young kids like him.
Yes, most young people like him the best, but he's got a limited ceiling. What he's selling is such nonsense. Most rational adults from both parties are going to say, this is ridiculous. This is never going to work.
Okay, so
all right? It's like a thought experiment. It's fun
we've-
to think about, but it doesn't work.
We've got Sanders, the ridiculous candidate. Let's go down the list. Kamala Harris. You call her.
She's what the thing is with the Democrats is they have all the boxes checked. You know, everything is about identity politics.
Right.
What race, what ethnicity, what gender. And so you have all these multiple candidates. You have several women. You have 2 black candidates running. They're all progressive or ultra progressive candidates. It's a lot of the same over and over. It's just slightly different versions. The one guy who's different is Joe Biden. But, you know, he's over 75.
Different. I was going to say, he checks one box right
Well,
down the.
but he's like a centrist. He's like an old-fashioned moderate
all
Democrat.
right.
Right.
Oh, my God.
But that's what I'm. Okay, see, follow me here. What's the impressiveness of the group? You're not going to win with an ultra left-wing candidate, but that's where all the crazies who vote in the primaries are going to go. But half the Democrats don't want that. Half the Democrats will settle on Biden. But then Biden, I don't think he's got the energy and personality.
Well, then who's his running mate going to be? Biden and Sanders? Biden and Hillary
They're the
again?
two-
Oh, but I know Hillary said
All
she's
right,
not
they're
running.
the 2 most popular. You keep hearing this stuff that the Democrats are full of youth and energy. It's the next generation.
Right, and
it's
you've
the
got
millennial.
guys even older than Trump.
You had Bernie Sanders and Joe Biden together. They're like 55% of the vote already in that party.
Wow.
Because mostly middle-class, middle-aged and older people vote. Younger people make a lot of noise. Their voting percentages are really tiny.
Look,
they don't show up.
They don't.
They're still drinking.
I would love to have somebody younger in there. I mean, but you're right. And then some of the folks like Kamala Harris and Elizabeth Warren, they don't speak for me either. I'd love to get a woman in there. I don't know. This is going to be a tough sell. I think Trump's going to win again. There's my prediction, everybody, in 2019. I predicted he was going to win the first time. And
Yes,
people
you
thought
did.
I was wacky. And I was right. I think I'm going to be right again.
Yeah, I've got to see who they're going to come up with, unless there's some late entry flying out of the blue. Here's one to watch.
Oh.
I read a long article on Andrew Cuomo, the governor of New York.
Mm-hmm.
He wants to run because he thinks most of the Democrats are crazy. He's also really obnoxious and nasty. He's another guy from Queens. He and Trump would be really explosive running against each other.
And he's got the machine behind him, that's for
Yeah.
sure.
So if he jumps in,
That's interesting. I didn't realize that he could be a contender. Okay, so the takeaway on that is let's watch for Andrew Cuomo out of New York. Okay.
Yes.
The wall. Let's very briefly touch upon that. Is there going to be a wall or no wall?
Trump will keep incrementally building the wall for as long as he's
I
president.
know, but he's trying to pick pockets and just find money wherever he can get
Right,
it.
because Congress, when it was run by the Republicans and now it's split, neither party wants the wall. Both parties are against it. You always have to remember Trump is an independent president who wiped out 17 other guys in the Republican Party, trashed them badly, and then went on to take out what was left of the Hillary and Obama regime. So he has no friends.
He's also, but he's a guy with an ego. He's going to get that damn thing built if he goes out there with a hammer and nail himself.
So he's got a few $1 billion he could legitimately steal from drug forfeiture funds. You know, every time they capture a drug cartel leader, they get billions of dollars. And there's 2 funds that he's tapping for that. The third one is redirecting military money. That's the one that's become a lawsuit.
You know what? With Donald Trump, again, because he won't let his ego get beat, he'll just probably build a portion of the wall and then just say, we built it in the areas that was most needed. And then he's on with the next thing. Mark my words, that'll happen next.
No, he will never admit defeat.
Okay, let's go now to the state level of government, Mr. Kobylt. Gavin Newsom, you never really liked him going into the election. No. Give me a mark on him.
He hasn't done anything yet. He has quietly backed away. Well, actually, I should say not so quietly. He backed away from high-speed rail because he had no choice. That whole system's broke.
Right.
There's no money. There never was money. There's never going to be any money.
But then he wanted to build like a little portion of it just to give sort of an FU to Trump so that he didn't have to give that money back, right?
Bakersfield to Merced.
Who's going to get on that? An armadillo? I mean, you know, there's not going to be anybody on that thing.
And then it came out yesterday in the LA Times that there's not even money for that. The train might have to stop in Wasco.
I never even heard of Wasco. Is there really a Wasco, California?
There is a Wasco, California, and it's going to have a train stop. So
think of all the jobs that could turn up in Wasco, California.
Well, Wasco's going to be a boomtown.
Okay, but also the border. He's been talking about, he pulled troops away from the border, right?
National Guard troops. Yeah. That's not that important because other states have issued troops, and those were backup. They're not allowed to work at the border because that violates the Constitution.
It was backup safety?
They can't make arrests or anything. No, it would allow the Border Patrol agents who worked in the offices, who worked in background jobs to move to the front lines. And then the National Guard took over.
I love this one idea that he had because, as you know, everyone from Silicon Valley is infiltrating our phones. Every time you look down, they sort of know what you're looking at, and they put pop-up ads. So he's trying to, get the consumer some money back every time you get a pop-up ad? I think it's sort of a brilliant idea.
Yeah, that Facebook would have to pay a royalty for using our data, for invading our privacy, and taking our information. And then, he's also looking for another source of taxes because California's taxed to the hilt, and they need a lot more money because the pension system
I don't know. Go after Silicon Valley guys. They have the money. Why not?
Well, yeah,
I'm in support of that.
They're the most powerful branch of government in the state right now. They far exceed what Sacramento can do.
Okay, so let's give him a grade.
It's kind of a C.
I knew you were going to say a C.
Well, I mean, he hasn't done anything. He hasn't done anything stupid yet. He just hasn't done much. He's pulled away from his idea of single-payer health care, where the state would pay everybody's health care bills.
That's impossible. It can't be done. So everybody knows
that's right. You would have to add $400 billion worth of taxes.
Right.
So that's what I'm saying. That's where we're going back to Bernie Sanders. When you actually get elected, you can't do any of these things because it doesn't work. The taxes would never. You can't raise taxes that high. The economy would collapse.
Right. So in other words, he sort of let down his base.
Yes, that's what they all do.
He does it to get elected. Yeah, it is what they all do. I mean, it's pointless. Remember, there was a time where people wanted you to run for governor, and you said, I can't because I wouldn't be able to sell myself. I mean, it's so true.
Yeah, nobody wants to hear truth.
Yeah.
Truth only gets you into trouble.
Okay, let's go now to the local level with Mayor Eric Garcetti. What's the big problem in LA? And I know at least in our neighborhood, one of the big problems, and I feel badly about it, but the homelessness is getting out of control, and I believe that it's due to the explosion of meth.
Oh, yes. There's 30,000 bodies in the street just in the city of LA. There's another 30,000 in the rest of the county.
But
and we all know it wasn't like this 5 years ago.
No, it really wasn't. But what can he do? I feel badly for these people. Let me be super clear about it. But I also can't have hundreds and hundreds of tents just around the block.
Well, then you can't feel badly because then you get the tents.
But I'm not an elected official. I have no answer. So what can he do to change this, if anything?
Beverly Hills doesn't have this problem. West Hollywood doesn't have this problem.
Look, when I did the
you go to Malibu, they're not there. You go to Newport Beach, they're not there. Why? Because the police departments pick these guys up and say, you can't do this. You can't put up a tent.
Well, then where do they put them? In my neighborhood?
I'd probably put them in the back of a police car, and drive to somebody else's neighborhood.
Yeah, well, Beverly Hills is known to tossing people out anyway. When I was doing the LA Marathon, they were saying, come on, you're too slow. Keep going. We got to open the streets.
Right.
It's like, geez, it's the marathon. Give me a break.
I drove around Beverly Hills one day. I took a detour on a few blocks. They simply don't tolerate it. And
so
part
let's
of the
get back to my question. What can Eric Garcetti do?
Start not tolerating it.
Okay, but didn't he build housing? But I know that it was a small number
These
housing.
people, yes. There's 45 beds in downtown LA. It was cost $3 million for the 45 beds. They must be gold-plated. And that's been the extent of his program so far.
Egyptian cotton sheets.
Yeah, what's the thread count? You know things like that.
Oh, I'm very proud of you.
You like that?
You know your thread count.
All the other council districts, the residents go into full revolt. I mean, they scream and chant and boo and yell at the councilman, and the councilmen turn tail and run, and they rescind the proposal, which is what you should do to these guys. And that now you don't have a shelter, because the shelter just brings more in.
So what can he do?
He can't do anything about it. He let the problem fester too far. They have to change the law and allow people to be forced into mental health treatment, forced into drug and alcohol addiction. If you don't force
Isn't
them,
that a state law or even federal or what? It can't be local.
You could change the state law. You could make it so families would have conservatorship, for example. And
a lot of families don't care. They don't know where their loved one is.
Right. Oh, there's no silver bullet that answers all this. But all I care about, and I know all you care about, is we don't have an encampment in our neighborhood, which we do now.
Well, I told you I'm concerned about some diseases. I told you one guy, when I was just going to the grocery store, literally took a dump right in front of me as I was parking along the edge of the parking lot. And I thought, okay, this is just, now it's a health hazard.
Right.
So,
but again,
I have no answer for them. I feel badly.
If you tolerate it, it only gets worse. In San Francisco, there's an app you can get on your phone that shows you where all the piles of poop are. So
that's what Garcetti can do.
Well, that's what it's
LA
down to.
pile of poop.
So if you want to avoid the neighborhoods where there's poop all over
That's
the
a
streets,
shame.
you download the app.
Okay, is there anything that he's done that you're in favor of, Mr.
No.
Garcetti? No.
No.
So then give Mr. Garcetti a grade,
F.
please. You give him an F?
An F, yeah.
You didn't give Donald Trump a grade. So you
give
gave
him,
Newsom a C, you give Garcetti an F. I think that's harsh.
I give Trump a B.
Trump is getting a B.
Mm-hmm.
What about what he did with Mr. North Korea? Nothing. He came back
Well,
empty-handed.
you can't force the guy to give up his nuclear facilities.
Mm-hmm.
He's trying to do a deal. He offered to get rid of all the economic sanctions in return for dismantling all of the nuclear facilities. And Kim said no. He wants to keep them. At least he's not testing missiles anymore. So far there's half a win with that. And
if he even has them, there's rumor that they imploded and he doesn't even have them anymore. I think if he had them, he'd be testing them just to scare people off.
North Korea built up their nuclear facilities over decades. It doesn't get solved in a minute. Same thing with Garcetti. That built up for a number of years. Then you can't snap your fingers and make it go away. You have to not tolerate things right at the beginning.
Okay, so Donald Trump, a B. Gavin Newsom, a C. I'm surprised at that one. Garcetti, I think you're you can't change your grade. You're no grade changing here. Garcetti, an F?
An F. Look at it. Look at the traffic. How many times do we want to go out on a Friday night and we decide not to go out? Or it takes us 2 hours to get there.
Traffic isn't his fault. We've just had too many people move here. Look, in Santa Monica alone, they're going to be, I think, they're building this enormous hotel.
You've got to stop building things.
Okay, well, there's going to be people who are going to be coming in and out of a very dense area already.
The council people take bribes from developers, and then they allow these monstrosities to be built, and now you have another 400 cars in the neighborhood. It happens over and over and over again. They always give in to the developers. And we're tapped out. There should be a no vacancy sign.
Yeah, but you can't go blaming Garcetti for the traffic. I mean, I don't have an answer for this.
Oh, yeah.
I don't even know if they do anymore.
He's the one who instituted these road diets that created more traffic. turning
You mean the green lanes?
the lanes into bike lanes.
It's a good idea, but I mean, would you
All right,
want to go on a bike lane? Wait a minute.
So
With
well,
everybody looking at their phone, you know you're going to get hit. So why would anybody even want to go in the
we
first place?
spent
Dumb
an hour
idea.
on the street during the show where they had done one of those road diets.
Yeah.
We stood in the bike lane. In an hour, 4 bike
You
riders.
stood in the lane?
We stood in the lane, and we were going to count. So you gave one third, or sometimes one half of the roadway to 4 bikes an hour, and that was during rush hour.
I'm glad you didn't get hit. That's kind of
I
a
bet
dumb thing to do. but
Meantime,
okay.
there's thousands of cars backed up for 1.5 miles while these 4 bozos go
Can't
flying
they
by on their bike.
double-decker roads, and you
Of course
know,
they could. They could double decker the
I don't know if
freeways.
they could because freeways, yeah.
Yeah, they could.
Well, what about the monorail system that's being proposed from, I think, the north end of the valley to go down to the airport? That would be smart, but then I think there's not enough money, and they only want to dump everybody like on Sunset Boulevard. I'm thinking, oh, wait a minute. That's not going to solve anything.
We're going to be dead before that comes.
Okay, Mr. Kobylt, we're going to be dead before that comes. I appreciate your political insight.
Thank you.
I really do. That's about it, right?
All right,
we
yeah.
did the federal level. We did the anything else you want to add?
No, that's all the levels.
Okay, federal, state, and local level. We'll have you back.
Okay. I'll
Okay,
see you
we'll see if
tonight.
anybody changed their grade from a B to a C, from a C to an F, from an F maybe up
Right.
to a B. We're going to keep track of this.
Okay.
All right. Thank you very much for coming into our show. John Kobylt, host of the John and Ken Show, one of the most popular shows on radio now for a few decades around the country. So, yeah, appreciate your being here. Now go off and do your own show.
Thank you. It was a
across the
pleasure.
street. Thank
I'll
you
see
so
you
much.
later.
I will see you later, everybody. And thank you for being here. If you have any comments, please leave them on our social media. We're on YouTube, Facebook, and of course, you can hear us wherever you get your podcasts, Apple Podcasts, iHeartRadio, Spotify, etc. So thank you for being here for Deborah Kobylt Live, and we'll see you next time.